Kant sounds so much more dignified than just Mr. Kant. It gives it a veneer of an explorer, a summiteer, a person who works hard to make things happen, which, by the way, all these attributes are true of Amitabh. I've had the pleasure of knowing Amitabh for almost 3 decades. He's slightly older than I am. And what I've admired about him is his tenacity, intellectual rigor, and the most important thing, when it was a different era and a different government, his ability to make things happen. And it's very important that we have governments that make things happen, because they don't make things happen for themselves, they make things happen for us, for citizens of India. And I think this session is important because, Amitabh, what we want to cover over the next 30 minutes is the worldview of India now slowly emerging, not only as a developing economy, but also someone that's taken seriously at the high table of nations across the world. So I want to begin by asking you to demystify 3 things. G20, the importance of G20 in branding India both as a political and economic superpower, and what do you see are the most important challenges? A lot of the summits fail because they engage within the government and the citizen is left disengaged, except that, traffic comes to a standstill for the citizen. What are the 3 things, and these 3, what are your views on this?
So Suhel, let me first say that G20 is one body which comprises of both the most advanced nations in the world, that is the G7, plus emerging markets. Is a grouping which comprises about 85% of the global GDP. It comprises of about 78% of the global trade, 2/3 of the population, and almost about 95% of the patents and innovation are done in G20 countries. It's important because the United Nations is too large a body. It's not able to find solutions in today's complex world. G7 is too elitist. And it's too elitist because when several crises arose, like the Asian currency crisis, the Mexican peso crisis, the Russian financial crisis, the G7 realized that it's important to expand and cover the G20, and it was the initiative of the US president that G20 was then developed. So G20 is one body which is comprising of both advanced and emerging markets, and they are able to find very critical solutions to issues of economic growth, financial progress, social inclusion, many of these issues. The challenges are enormous. The challenges are enormous because by the time India takes over presidency, you will see that growth would have slowed down. There would be recession in several parts of the world. Global supply chains are disrupted. You have the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Climate action is very critical. And you have a scenario where growth with climate action and growth with equity, because SDGs, COVID has taken education, health, nutrition, all of them have regressed, they've not progressed. So the 2030 agenda of sustainable development goals, the world is way behind, you have to accelerate progress. So all these are challenges. And to the third point which you said, that unlike G20s held in many other parts of the world, the Prime Minister is determined to make it into an event where the citizens of India are active participants, and therefore he's decided that G20 events would be held in every single state, every single union territory of India, and that would mean that the citizens of India and the states of India, the union territories of India, would be very active participants in both substantive issues as well as issues relating to participating in cultural fairs and in participating in handicrafts, exhibitions, many other ways where they would be very big stakeholders in this process.
Excellent. It would also give Arnab and his colleagues in the media some reprieve. For the last 8 months, we've been discussing G23. Now we'll at least focus on G20. But I want to come to the demystification part of it when you talk about events for the public and for the people. It's very important, and I have to say this as an outsider, I hate all political parties. What has happened in the last 8 years are three things. A, there's a pride about being Indian without the arrogance. And the pride is substantiated by data points that you mentioned, data points that Mohan mentioned earlier. And you can see visible progress. It's a government that works hard. The second, which is a reality, is that the government has great individual communicators, but somehow the overarching communication of the government is poor, it's weak. The international outreach is weak. There's criticism, misplaced, not misplaced, but I think that needs some work. The third, which you very rightly mentioned, I genuinely believe that G20 is a great branding exercise for India, Indians, and Indianness. What are your views on that?
So Suhel, this is a unique opportunity. Firstly, it's a unique opportunity for every single visitor who comes to India to go back spiritually invigorated, mentally rejuvenated, and physically elevated as an Indian. He must go back being an Indian. That's important. The second important point is that it's also important to build the India narrative. A lot has been done in the last 7-8 years. And it's important to point out to the world that we've created digital public goods of the kind, building up individual identity, fast payments, consent-based empowerment on digital data, CoWIN, FASTags, the kind of digital public goods we've built up, we've demonstrated to the world that the digital public infrastructure, all the innovations have come from an emerging market and not from an advanced market, as distinct from the big tech innovation model of US and the GDPR market of the Europe, where privacy was there, but innovation was killed. But India has combined innovation with privacy, and therefore, huge amount of, we are far more digitally advanced. We do 7x of digital payment of what United States, Europe, and Canada do together. We do 3x of what China does in digital payments. It's also important to point out that we've done some remarkable work on infrastructure. We've provided piped water connection to 81 million houses. 81 million houses under the Jal Jeevan mission, which is like providing water connection to every single citizen of Brazil. We provided 30 million houses under the Awas Yojana, which is like providing house to the entire population of Australia. Entire population of Australia. And we've done 50,000 kilometers of roads, which is like building roads all through the European Union. Now, these are very major achievements in the last 7 to 8 years of this government, which need to be highlighted and pointed out to the world that there has been a radical transformation in terms of housing, in terms of electricity, in terms of providing LED bulbs, in terms of a huge transformation that has taken place. So I'm a great believer that the story of India has just begun. It is not just the decade of this is not just the decade of India, but this is going to be India's century in the coming years.
So, this is exactly what I was alluding to. People buy benefits. Brands are all about benefits. You don't buy Colgate, you buy the whitest teeth. You don't buy Surf, you buy the whitest wash. What you're saying has a duality in terms of the narrative. all the things that you talked about have actually transformed India and are transformational for the world to see about India. My personal view is that this is the narrative that now needs to be played out. You know, we need to somehow wrap this in quasi-emotional speak. Like, for instance, what you just said about Brazil, providing drinking water to every citizen of Brazil. The giganticism of the task that this government has undertaken and achieved is not known. Because our media, other than Republic, of course, is so busy worrying about, contentious issues on a daily basis. I don't blame them. But some of these stories have not found their way either in the Indian narrative within India or in the narrative about India in the West. How do you believe this is going to change? Because I know you've done remarkable work with Incredible India, where you got partners. I remember many, many years ago doing this phrase where Amitabh was also there. I wrote something called India Everywhere for Davos. If you remember, at that time we took buses, we took hoardings, we took everything to let the world know. Now today you're going to have 20 of the world's leading, most powerful leaders coming into India. What's that narrative going to play out before and after them?
So Suhel, 2 points on that. One is that you will have all the top leaders, the finance ministers, the external affairs ministers, the central bank governors, the Sherpas, everyone in India. It's very important to put out data points. Talking in generalities doesn't help. Quite often we talk in generalities. We should actually put out with clear facts and figures the transformation that has taken place. Secondly, we must get, like I ran a program called the Aspirational Districts of India, which covered the most backward, 115 of the most backward districts of India. In 3.5 years' time, we transformed them simply because of data points. We got real-time data, we put the ranking in public domain, the districts competed, and all the aspirational districts, simply because of data and real-time data and competition, transformed themselves. Because we were naming and shaming them on outcome basis. This government has moved away from physical and financial achievement, and I've been 42 years in government, so I've worked with different governments. The earlier governments used to work on physical and financial achievement. This government has moved to outcomes and outputs. And therefore, these outcomes were put out in public domain, and we were naming and shaming the collectors, and because it was naming and shaming, and public data was being put out in public domain, they were able to then compete and transform 22% of India's population at the grassroots level. There are many such transformational stories. For instance, we do the Ayushman Bharat scheme. We are covering 500 million Indians digitally for health insurance. 500 million Indians means more than the population of USA and Europe put together. Now, that is the transformation. You can be in Bihar, moving to Tamil Nadu, you'll carry your health insurance with you. Now, this is transformational. You've heard about the Obama healthcare and how it failed. But India has done this successfully, digitally. We did the CoWIN, all digitally linked to your passport. And therefore, these are the stories of transformation which must be put out in public domain with data points. And there are many, many, for instance, the aspirational districts, the UNDP said it's a model which needs to be replicated in all over Latin America and all over Africa to transform these countries. And that is what needs to be talked about.
So it's interesting that
Amity faculty have filed over 1,600 patents. Yet another reason why Amity has been ranked among the top for innovation achievements.
Style? For me, it's the pursuit of timeless elegance. Crisp, clean, classic, subtle brilliance. You don't know what it is that catches your eye But it does, you know. The cut, the color, the lines. There's something in the essence of the evergreen. You feel special, selected. That's when I know I found the right fit. When I feel selected.
Darwin Platform Group of Companies is one of the fastest growing diversified Indian conglomerates with global footprints. It is setting up offices globally and tying up with companies across the globe for multiple sectors. The company has ventured into real estate and construction, stockbroking and finance, arms and ammunition, mining, airlines and many other sectors.
Already we have invested significant amounts of time and resource and funds in getting the 6G developments in place. Already we have more than 15 patents. We have more than 15 patents for 6G technology. Our teams are today called for all the major discussions. We have a clear roadmap laid out for taking the lead. Now the lead is not just in rolling out, Arnab. The lead is in technology. The lead is in making sure that we are the technology leaders in 6G. It's not just rolling out. 6G is around 28, 29 is what the world is.
Around 2028, 29.
Yeah. The world is recognizing that India is emerging as a technological superpower. It is not just a country which develops for the world. It is a country which can do, which is doing for its own also. And actually, in the G20, I want to share with you.
Yeah.
In the G20 group of ministers, at least 8 ministers told me that we are waiting for your 5G to be rolled out so that we remove our dependence on the country that you named.
How is the faster rollout of 5G made possible?
We have a leadership which believes in performance, which believes in delivery. Earliest possible is a few months. Actually happened one day.
5G is projected to be 100 times faster than 4G. 6G will be 100 times faster than 5G. What is the future looking like?
Now in 6G, Prime Minister has given us the lead that we have to be the leader. We have a clear roadmap laid out for taking the lead. Now the lead is not just in rolling out, Arnab. The lead is in technology.
Is it Modi whom you hate or is it the policy? Let's be clear about it.
I stand very often in criticism of their policies, and I believe in a democracy I am entitled to.
India became the 5th largest economy in the world. You can pick, you can be a naysayer, you can criticize India for its fiscal policies, but overall the economy is strong and Narendra Modi ji and Nirmala Sitharaman ji are leading from the front.
A lot of economists, both in-house and people who practice economics with taxi drivers, keep talking about joblessness and jobless growth and keep talking about the fact that, oh, there's a high level of unemployment. Earlier, a speaker mentioned that we would be the world's largest population in another 2-3 years. Where do you see the challenges of unemployment, growth, aspiration, and how do you see that whole axis playing out?
So Suhel, I'm a great believer in accelerating the process of growth. When Prime Minister talks about becoming a developed nation by 2047, he's basically saying that you have to transform India in one generation. In one generation. Now, some countries in Asia have done this earlier. But that would mean that India needs to grow rapidly to be able to grow with jobs. You create jobs not by distributing poverty. You create jobs by distributing growth. And therefore, we need to understand that if you grow at 6%, your $3 trillion economy would be a $14 trillion economy. If you grow at 8%, it will be a $22 trillion economy. But if you grow at 10%, you will be a $34 trillion economy. And you would have taken your per capita income from $2,100 to close to $25,000, bringing prosperity to every citizen of India. You will make him more advanced than anybody else. And that is the prosperity we need. And that means that India needs to fire on all cylinders. Not just services growth, it needs to fire on manufacturing, it needs to fire on agriculture, it needs to fire on urbanization, sustainable urbanization. And the challenge for India is that not only that we need to go digital, which we've done very successfully, we also need to be the first country in the world to industrialize without carbonizing. And this, to my mind, is a huge, it's not a challenge, it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity to technologically leapfrog.
So let me ask you, and you can please be honest on this one. Who and what are the lag points? What are the things that are drawing us back from achieving this? Politics apart, and political compulsions apart, what do you think are the 3-4 things that are actually holding us back from achieving this? And be as brutally honest as you want to be.
Yeah, so first and foremost, growth of a country is dependent on its states. And therefore, it's very important that states must become the key drivers of growth. States need to accelerate the pace of growth, much like what Gujarat did. For 10 years in a row, it grew at about 11% plus. You need 10 Indian states to be growing at 10% plus. That's critical to my mind. That's critical, 10 Indian states. Secondly, you need, in the central and the eastern part of India, you need states to talk a different language, move away from agriculture. It's important because in India, 18% of your agriculture with 43% of your population in agriculture, low productivity jobs. These, without smart urbanization, it'll be impossible to grow rapidly. And I'm saying this because look at Uttar Pradesh. Gautam Budh Nagar, which is Noida and Greater Noida, is GDP of one district is 10x of what the second district Kanpur does. 10x of Kanpur. The GDP of Mumbai alone, one city, is more than the GDP of Uttar Pradesh. And therefore, smart urbanization backed by good manufacturing is the response to this. Without this, you need all these states, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Bihar, all of them to drive the growth momentum. And that will create the jobs for you.
But you see, the counter argument of this is always that the states, the places you mentioned, including Noida, have had a historical legacy. Mumbai has always been the commercial capital. The trick is to make semi-urban centers smart cities or urban-centric or urban-focused, as you mentioned. We are not focusing as much on the really small cities. I've worked across sectors. The Coimbatores of the world, the Ludhianas, have always generated a huge amount of revenue. But we need to spread that goodness. The antecedents, for those of you who are from Bengal, the antecedents of the Naxalite movement began because there was migration from rural to urban because of a paucity of jobs. So one point is obviously states. But Amitabh, states will always have political compulsions. Some people, and it's really tragic, I don't want to mention names, some states, at the cost of their own citizens, are opposing goodness for just petty partisan political reasons. That's not going to change in a hurry.
So the point about that is that good economic growth and good governance must become good politics.
Absolutely. And I think, to be fair to Narendra Modi and to be fair to a lot of state chief ministers, they are recognizing today that ultimately people want food on the table, a dignity of livelihood, and something to be aspirational about. I want to wind down and ask you, I think we have 5 more minutes, to ask you the last question. after G20 is over, and I know we will have a stunning presidency, because everything will hopefully fall in place. I can see the infrastructural part develop. I can see the processes develop. The digitization of India has been more than remarkable. When you look back at the next 2-3 years, because 5 years is too long a horizon, what's the India you dream of? Because you've been part of that incredible India, no pun intended. You've been part of that incredible India's journey. So when you actually demit office at the end of your presidency and move into yet another government appointment, which I'm sure will come your way because you've been good at it, where do you see India in the next 2-3 years?
So Suhel, first of all, it's important for every Indian to look at a much longer perspective rather than just 2 to 3 years. And it's important, I would say 3 decades. Prime Minister has defined it as 2047. India needs to do a 9 to 10% rate of growth year after year, year after year, year after year. This would require, much like what Prime Minister has aimed at, a huge amount of structural reforms on a constant basis. It would require massive productivity enhancement. It would require a huge focus on massive use of going digital and going green. And it would require a huge focus on getting into sunrise areas of growth. It's important to understand this because India has been focusing on textiles, food processing, which are important from a job perspective. But we must understand that the sale of mobiles is more than the sale of automobiles today. So you have to get into renewable, you have to get into battery storage, you have to get into electric mobility, you have to make the quantum leap forward in all these artificial intelligence and machine learning. And these are the areas which will spur your growth rate to high levels and create completely new jobs, because I think we must understand one thing, that India will be accounting for 25 to 30% of the skilled manpower of the world by 2047. And therefore, we require new skills and completely new skills which will take on the rest of the world. This is our opportunity to capture the world and penetrate the world.
I would just add one thing to that. Before you commence on Atma Nirbharta, there has to be Atma Vishwas. And today what we're seeing is a greater quotient of Atma Vishwas. The average Indian is more confident, he's more capable. Hopefully the impoverishment of opportunities will diminish. I generally believe every country has poverty. Where we have suffered is we've denied equal opportunity to a large mass of people, which, as you rightly said, is disappearing. You know, when I look at India from a business perspective, from a perspective of dealing with so many businesses both here and overseas, I just don't see a great country. I see a great people. I see a people who are not only going to be more confident, they're going to be more concerned, they're going to be more compassionate, they're going to be more global. Because in addition to our economic prowess comes our civilizational legacy. When you combine civilization with commerce, it's a win-win. That's the India I see. And I hope that every one of us sees it with the same thought, maybe not in the same contours. And I generally believe, Amitabh, people like you, people like the Prime Minister, people who serve at the district level, people who give up their tomorrows so that our todays look good, our caregivers, our lifesavers, these are the people who make us who we are. The person who comes and fixes things at your house so that your technology is never disabled. People in the media who inform you so that you can make an informed choice. And for that, India, let's all pray and hope. And thank you, Amitabh. We wish you the very best during the next 1 year and even more for the rest of your career and the rest of your life. Thank you so much.
Darwin Platform Group of Companies is one of the fastest growing diversified Indian conglomerates with global footprints. It is setting up offices globally and tying up with companies across the globe from multiple sectors. The company has ventured into real estate and construction, stockbroking and finance, arms and ammunition, mining, airlines, and many other sectors.
Amity faculty have filed over 1600 patents. Yet another reason why Amity has been ranked among the top for innovation achievements.
Style? For me, it's the pursuit of timeless elegance. Crisp, clean, classic, subtle brilliance. You don't know what it is that catches your eye, but it does, you know. The cut, the color, the lines. There's something in the essence of the evergreen. You feel special, selected. That's when I know I found the right fit, when I feel selected.
Amity faculty have filed over 1600 patents. Yet another reason why Amity has been ranked among the top for innovation achievements.
Style? For me, it's the pursuit of timeless elegance. Crisp, clean, classic, subtle brilliance. You don't know what it is that catches your eye, but it does, you know. The cut, the color, the lines. There's something in the essence of the evergreen. You feel special, selected. That's when I know I found the right fit, when I feel selected.
Railway is something very close to Prime Minister's heart. He is like he knows everything, almost everything about railways. PM has given us a target of 200 stations. When the first 50 designs that our team, all of us, we took to the Prime Minister, he reviewed that entire thing for almost 2.5 hours, each and every station. After 2.5 hours, he was not happy. He didn't approve. He didn't say, Aage badho. He didn't say that. We came out of that room so disappointed. We were thinking that what has happened? We put in so much effort and still it has not got approved today. And in the night I get a call from PM. He says, आपने जो तैयारी की है वो आज के लिए अच्छी है. आगे से 50 साल के लिए सोच के वापस तैयारी करके लेके आओ. आगे के 50 साल के लिए सोच के लेके. It's a very different thought process. It took me a while to understand what is Prime Minister's thought process, how far he is thinking. We went back after 2.5 months of hard work and we got the approval from the boss.
1950, we are the largest economy in Asia. From 1950 to 1980, we grew at 3.5% a year. Population grew at 2.5%. Per capita income 1% a year. Because of Nehru's failed policy. Nehru made sure that we became poorer in 1980 than 1950. This is all data, not politics. 1980 to 1990, we grew at 5.5%, population 2.25%, but debt grew from $20 billion in 1981 to $80 billion, and we are broke by 91. In 91, because private capital was suppressed by Nehru because of his dalliance with the Soviet model and the Fabian school, and you know his disdain for business. 1991, GDP was $275 billion. 2022, we reached $3.15 trillion. We grew at 8.2% a year in dollar terms for 31 years.
Here are the headlines at 1 p.m. this afternoon. Months after Miram Tharon, 2 more Arunachal Pradesh youths reported missing from near LAC, and the family alleges Chinese army hand. The language debate is back. DMK stages mega showdown against Hindi imposition. Big crackdown on terror in the valley. 5 government employees sacked for terror links. After Aam Aadmi Party top leader Gopal Italia, JDU leader makes controversial remarks against Prime Minister Modi, stokes fresh row. Pakistan left red-faced again. Now, even once an ally, US calls out Pakistan instability now. Very good afternoon. Thanks for tuning into Republic TV and staying with us. We're continuing to live and we're live and breaking, and we're getting breaking news coming in. This one from Jammu and Kashmir, where we're learning that sources have informed 5 government employees have been terminated from service for terror links, running narco-terror syndicate and aiding prescribed outfits to carry out terror attacks. So that is the breaking news that we're getting in from Jammu and Kashmir, where we're learning that government sources have informed that 5 government employees have been terminated from service for terror links, running narco-terror syndicate and aiding prescribed outfits to carry out terror attacks. For more information on this, cutting across to Gursimran, who's joining us live and reporting on the story. Gursimran, give us more details in terms of these 5 government employees who have been terminated and the allegations that have been leveled against them.
Well, see, 5 government employees have been terminated by the J&K government, and they were terminated in connection with the terror links they had with the various terror outfits. One of them was constable in the Jammu and Kashmir police. He was the one who was running the weapon repair factory for Lashkar-e-Toiba for more than 20 years. Recruited in 1991, he managed to get posting in the armor division of the Jammu and Kashmir government, and he was part of the Jammu and Kashmir police, but was repairing the weapons for the terror outfit Lashkar-e-Toiba for a longer period of time, over a decade's time. He had been doing so, and other employees, those who were in the other departments, including in the cooperative bank, they were somehow financing and helping the terror groups to carry out the terror acts in Srinagar and the nearby cities. The constable of the Jammu and Kashmir police, who has been terminated from his service, he was the one who was continuously carrying out the terror attacks and was also helping the terror outfit in the killing of MSC Shala that has happened earlier.
All right, Gursimran, thank you for getting us the latest in terms of this particular story that is coming in from Jammu and Kashmir, where we're learning that 5 government employees have been terminated from service because of the fact that allegations that are leveled against them include for terror links, running narco-terror syndicate and aiding prescribed outfits to carry out terror attacks. But moving on to more breaking news that we're getting in now. Terrorists fired upon one Pandit, namely Puran Krishnan Bhatt, son of Tarak Nath Bhatt, at Shopian in his residential lawn, and is presently under treatment at the district hospital in Shopian. And we're going to be getting more details on that with this breaking news coming in, where we're understanding that terrorists fired upon one Pandit, namely Puran Krishnan Bhatt, son of Tarak Nath Bhatt. Now, we're understanding that this took place in Shopian at his residential lawn and is presently under treatment at District Hospital Shopian. For more information on this, we have our Kashmir Bureau Chief Zeenat joining us. Zeenat, give us the latest in terms of this particular incident. Of course, we're understanding that the terrorists fired upon one Pandit, namely Puran Krishnan, in Shopian. But what are the other details that we have so far about this incident?
See, as far as once again we are seeing the terrorists trying to target the civilians, and this time this has again happened in the South Kashmir Shopian district, where a Kashmiri Pandit was working in his lawn at his residential house in Chaudhry Gund Shopian, and he was shot at. He has been shifted to nearby hospital, District Hospital Shopian, where he is under treatment. Meanwhile, we are seeing the castle launched by the security forces in the Chaudhry Gund of Shopian. We see the disruption and that frustration among the terror groups, because this is a shame Shopian district where the terrorists recently were eliminated after conducting the 2 anti-terror operations in 2 different areas of the Shopian, where the terrorists were neutralized. Terrorists, after getting a blow, they try to disrupt the situation on They try to disrupt the situation. Although we are seeing the measures being taken up by the security forces to secure those vulnerable targets, but thus this time again the terrorists showing their presence in the Chaudhry Gund of Shopian, where they targeted the Kashmiri Pandit who was working in his lawn when the terrorists fired upon him from a close range. He has been, as per the sources, he has been shifted to District Hospital Shopian, where he is under treatment.
Well, Zeenat, this of course is a ghastly, attack on a civilian. Talking about these cases that are coming out of Kashmir as well, if you could shed light about this particular area and such incidents taking place, what are the security forces, of course, measures being taken to be combating such issues?